Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the 5-Minute Leader. And today I want to talk about a concept that was created by Thomas Sowell. He's an economist. Oh man, I forgot how old he is now. He's probably close to 100 or in his mid-90s at Stanford University, formerly at Stanford University. He's written a lot of great books on economics. And he has this concept of mundane versus special knowledge and consequential knowledge. And I really love the way that he thinks about this because he makes the argument that knowledge is just not knowledge. There are different types of knowledge. And it's not so much a hierarchy, it's about understanding in the moment or in the situation what kind of knowledge is going to be more consequential. And so let me unpack what that means. So he talks about these two types, mundane knowledge and special knowledge. So mundane knowledge is stuff that you just know. It's localized. It's stuff that you've experienced. It's not necessarily training that you had to go through. It's just knowledge that you have. So for example, maybe you work in a warehouse and you just know the best way to kind of lay things out to make it easier for you to get stuff. Mundane knowledge might be, if you live in a certain community, you kind of know traffic patterns. If you go to the store, you know the good time to go, you know when products are in stock. These are things that you've just experienced by being, by living, by existing in that kind of environment that you're in. Nobody necessarily taught you these things. You didn't go through training or go through any kind of formalized education, but you just know these things because they're a part of your life. Special knowledge, on the other hand, is stuff that you actually had to get trained for. So for example, if you're in people analytics, if you're in data analysis, how to conduct a SWOT analysis, any kind of technical degrees. These are things that you actually had to learn and train and go through. Marketing, search engine optimization. These are things that extend beyond knowledge that you might have just by existing or being in a certain environment. Now, a lot of people tend to think that one type of knowledge is better than the other. But it really depends on understanding what is more consequential. And so Thomas Sowell, in one of his books, he makes this argument referencing the Titanic. And he says that the people who were operating the ship, who were piloting the ship, the Titanic, no doubt had a lot of very specialized knowledge. They knew how the ship works. They knew how the engines work, the rudders. They knew everything in the bridge, what all the buttons did. They had a lot of very specialized knowledge and training on how the ship actually operates. But ultimately, what sank the ship was mundane knowledge. It was just knowing where the icebergs were. That didn't require any kind of formalized training. It just required knowing, hey, there's an iceberg there. We probably shouldn't steer into that. So even though they had all this specialized knowledge, ultimately what was more consequential was the mundane knowledge. And this is very relevant for leaders as well. Because think about any strategic decisions that you're trying to make. Let's say, for example, you're trying to roll out a new technology, right? Digital transformation. We keep hearing and seeing and talking about this all the time. So in the digital transformation space, mundane knowledge might be simply understanding how employees use different technologies, talking to them, asking them questions, just experiencing it. The specialized knowledge is how to roll this technology out. How does it integrate? How does it do this? How does it do that? How does it connect with this? How does it get rolled out? How do we upload? Right? It's the technical aspect of that. Now, if you only focus in that situation on the specialized knowledge, meaning focusing on how to roll it out, the technologies, the integrations, the features and stuff like that, but you ignore the mundane knowledge, meaning how employees actually use the tools, then the rollout is going to fail. Because in that situation, how employees use it is very consequential. Similarly, if you only focus on how employees might use the tools, but you ignore the specialized knowledge piece, again, similarly, the project might fail. So the whole goal of this is to say that as a leader, you have to be able to understand both of these things. You have to be able to combine your mundane knowledge, the things that you know through experience, the things that you know by being with your teams, the things that you know by hearing them, by seeing them, with the specialized knowledge that you might glean from experts, from data, from analysis, from gathering insights, from data collection. And you have to be able to bring these two things together when you make any kind of a decision, whether you're looking to roll out a new technology, whether you want to implement a hybrid work program, right? I mean, think about hybrid work. There's the mundane knowledge, which is, how do employees work? How do they commute, right? This is nothing specialized. This is something that anybody can learn. What does your day look like? How many hours are you commuting? What type of work are you doing? How many hours a week do you have meetings, right? This is mundane stuff versus the technical side of it. What are the tools that we need to enable hybrid work? How are we actually going to roll some of these things out? So again, as a leader in that kind of a situation, you have to be able to know and to identify both of those things, and then trying to figure out which one is more consequential. And I'm just looking at some of my notes here to make sure I covered everything. So the goal and the point of all of this is to say that as a leader, you're always going to have these two types of knowledge, right? The mundane and the specialized. And you need to make sure that you combine both of these types of knowledge whenever you're making decisions. Because as you saw in the example of the Titanic, you might have all the specialized knowledge in the world, right? You might be trying to create this amazing strategy for your company, and you've analyzed all the data, and you've gone through all the research reports, and you've collected all of the insights, and you have this whole wonderful thing and this dashboard and all this crazy stuff that you can look at, and you're convinced that you got the best strategy in the world for whatever it might be, but you ignored the mundane knowledge, which is talking to your employees, trying to figure out how they're going to receive this. How are they working? What are the challenges that they're faced with? And even though you spent all this time on the specialized knowledge, you're going to roll it out, it's going to be a huge failure. And it's that mundane knowledge in that situation that ends up being more consequential for you. So think about any situation, any strategy, any decision that's coming up. And try to ask yourself, what is the mundane knowledge that I have about this? And what is the specialized knowledge that I have or I need to get about this? And how can I bring these two things together to make the best possible decision I can? And that, I think, is going to be a very crucial element for leaders going forward, especially when we think about what the hat says, future-ready leadership. So I hope this video got you to think a little bit differently about knowledge, and I'd love to hear what you think. Leave me a comment. I'll see you soon.